Hey, welcome to the February 14th, February 14th work session in the city of Lula. Glad all y'all can make it today. I'm still thinking, I think there's some other business not okay. Now I've got y'all on here, got your attention. Let's go into the invocation and pledge. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for let's come here tonight in peace and joy. Help us make the right decision in the city of Lula. Thank you for our blessing of the day. Yes, in Jesus' name, amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll get it. You get it? Oh, Lord,
Before we get into citizen comments, just something else I'd like to do. We're going to do it now, we're going to do it a little bit out of order. After Bell Turner come make a little presentation for us, man. I want to change the order on just a little bit.
No. Well, some know me, some don't. I'm Milton Turner. I'm one of the former mayors here in town. Served 22 years here in the city, 16 years being on the council, and 16 years with Mr. Mordecai Wilson. So therefore, he has got an accommodation, and actually, if you would come up, Mr. Mordecai, I'm going to present this to you.
I can't stand. Come on.
Bring him a chair up here. There you go. That'll work. Come on around here and sit down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I served 16 years on the council with Mr. Wilson. He came in the first year I became mayor, same time I did. Of course, I'd already had 6 years prior to him on the council. So Joe contacted me and was getting this award from the governor's office. He wanted to know if I would present it to him. So that's what I'm here to do tonight, is present this award to you, Mr. Wilson. Let me read it.
Thank you.
By the governor of the state of Georgia, accommodation. Whereas Mr. Mordecai Wilson is a proud World War II veteran and has been committed to Lula City Council member for over 20 years. Let's see, trying to count. Yep, you spent 20 years. You sure did.
Yeah.
Whereas, as a Lula City Council member, Mr. Wilson serves on multiple committees, including Utility Committee, Public Safety Committee, Human Resource Committee, and I remember putting you on that one a long time ago because this guy thought a lot about how the employees to be handled. And Zoning and Planning Committee. And whereas Mr. Wilson has devoted his life to public service and impact in his community for the betterment, not only during his time in Lula, but also as a resident in Boston. Whereas he and his wife Mary, God bless her soul, run a group home for mental health patients after his military service. And whereas, along with his tenacious work to represent his community on the city council, Mr. Wilson is an avid and insatiable learner who seeks to learn and improve as much as possible, earning the Certificate of Achievement from the Harold F. Holtz Municipal Training Institute through the Georgia Municipal Association and the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute of Government. We did a lot of classes together,
You know,
didn't
we
we?
did. Thank you so much.
And normally recognized training series for elected officials, and whereas Mr. Wilson is an esteemed individual and unwavering public service who has greatly impacted his community now and for years to come. Now, therefore, I, Brian Kemp, Governor of the state of Georgia, do hereby commend Mr. Mordecai Wilson, and the witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the Executive Department to be affixed this 18th day of January in this year of the Lord 2022. Brian Kemp, Governor. Congratulations, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. I'm glad to have the privilege of serving under her. It was great to me.
Get your picture,
Appreciate it.
get your picture made.
All right.
And I want to congratulate you and your children and your missus there. Thank you so much. I'll come over there.
You can sit there and read
Sit
it.
there.
Okay.
Well, I'm not in charge. Mr. Joe is in charge, so that's his call.
Well, wait on you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Okay. I strongly believe that there's a time when our city and officials will move forward to see that our wishes and desires will happen, so don't ever lose faith. I am not discouraged because it didn't happen while I was on the city council, although I wish it could have. But I still have faith that it will happen. We shouldn't become as concerned about the cost as we are about the value of our purpose. That is why we all must work together for what is in the best interest of all. This is a new year, and we have a great opportunity to accomplish great things by working together. Don't ever think that we won't have problems in our effort to move forward, but think how much better things will be, will be when goals that help us everyone are accomplished. We should be in it for the long haul. Sometimes we have to say today is the appointed time to make things happen. Perseverance pays off. Don't let bitterness keep you from accomplishing your goals. Praise is an attitude that evokes the confidence to get things done. We as officials and the citizens of Lula praise each other and work together to make things better for everyone, and not just for the privileged few. What we all need to remember is hope, love, and faith. Operating on those principles brings us all success. We need to forget the things that have happened to us in the past and work for a better way forward to forward the future. We need to work together and not sit in our rocking chairs, rocking back and forth. That will get us nowhere fast. So let us all be careful of what we say. By the time people are destroyed or encouraged to success, our goal should always be what will bring success to our town and to its residents.
I wasn't here to stir up no trouble.
That will be my second week.
Good luck, guys.
Trouble when you
Hey, I've been there, know where you're at, so good luck.
See you, Mel.
Thank you, appreciate that. All right, Yeah, well, citizens' comments. So you got anything else to say? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, let's see. I would like to pass out one of these copies to everyone that's here. This contains the charter and everything where they have a law where they could use it, you know, in front of everyone up there. Is it all right?
I have no problem with anybody reading the charter. Well, it's all you want to say. Anybody else, somebody else, you want to say? Yes, somebody else?
Yes, I think there is a copy right here. On the abandoned houses and everything that y'all going through, and all that's a good
Okay, well,
thing.
you want to put that back on the table, let's get on the way out.
Okay, we're moving forward, and everybody needs to have a copy of this, how we're moving.
What else do you need? The charter, and what else?
This is
Okay, last,
okay, we voted for the mayor. Are you our mayor? Okay, you're gonna take the executive powers and run your office instead of the effective mayor?
does that make me, that's my mayor, to listen to you?
Well, we'd like to know if you want to take charge of that office.
I'm taking you. I have no control.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I think. All right. You know, you got minutes of the previous meeting. I got it. Go back and, we got minutes of the previous meeting. We'll go on next week. If I see anything they need to change on. All right, yard of the month, I've got one here. Next Monday night. Take them out. All right, yes. Show's on you now.
All right, everybody get good, comfortable, we'll be here for a while as we go over finance. Just teasing. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So, let's do this. I'll go over bank balances. In essence of time, I'll go ahead and help everybody out here, hand those out for the council review. Fortunately, things haven't changed that much. Matter of fact, they're much to the better. So we have a current fund balance of $5,225,000. How sweet is that? I will comment that our SPLOST dollars and our lost dollars continue to be accelerated. As a matter of fact, where we collected for December, as you pointed out the other day, we were almost $11,000 up over the previous year. How sweet is that? So let's get into profit and loss statements on the general fund. I'll talk about the general fund and utility fund. Good news is we're 32 weeks into the year, 52 weeks. We're well on our way where we should be at about 39%. On revenue, we're actually ahead of the game at about 36.9. I took out the $552,000 that's sitting there because that kind of spells a false picture. So when I take that number out, let's talk about expenditures where we should be at about 39%. The good news is we're at about 42%, which means that we actually have a surplus of $74,858. Bad news is we're in the third and fourth quarter, and that's when we experience the most cost, which you'll see coming up in the very near future. On the utility fund, again, where we should be at about 39%, there's two numbers, bless you,
Thank you.
that throw us off a little bit in operations. So 39% represents where we should be in operations. GFA, or what we call sewer tax, water and sewer. So we far exceeded what we had on that. Matter of fact, sewer taps are $236,000 a year. That goes towards capital expenses. That money's taken out of that fund and set separate, as is the same is true for water meters at $19,250. So it kind of sends a false number. But right now we're at about 21% remaining on budget for revenues, whereas the good news is where we should be at 39% on expenditures, we're at 44%, so that's good. However, I told you that on our revenue stream, we look at water and sewer rates more so than anything else. That's what we charge for each one of the customers as they consume water and discharge it in waste treatment system. So I'm a little concerned about that, which I've said throughout the year. Mainly is we're not seeing bumps in usage through the year, which are usually seasonal. Probably has a lot to do with COVID, what we've associated with, because everybody's home more often. So it's not so much of a big bump. But I will tell you, we look like we're $217,000 to the good when you take back that tap fee number that I mentioned earlier, $236,000, and remove that, you're actually $38,000 under. So now, should anybody get concerned about that? No, because at the end of the day, our expenditures are still low. Matter of fact, our expenditures are ahead by 5%. But the problem is we are experiencing more costs for utilities as well as expenditures that we have, as is everybody. I mean, buy a loaf of bread at the store now, and it's on sale at $4. Who would have ever seen that day coming? But I bring all that up, financially, we're still sound, but we're gonna have to look at water and sewer rates because they're not gonna continue to support the expenses that we've had down the road. Right now, your water revenue is about 38% and your sewer revenue is about 35%. But as we open this year in the fiscal budget, we realize that that's gonna be at a decline. So, other than bank balances are good. Overall picture is good. I'll leave these with everybody. But we'll want to start having that conversation. There's even one for you, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for me? So those numbers, with the exception of, on the bank balances that we're looking at, pretty much with the exception of the general fund, which went up, hardly any of those numbers changed. Because we don't experience capital expenses on a lot of those funds. So,
Now, you got any questions for this?
On the enterprise, or the water and sewer fund, were there any large purchases that were one-time purchases?
so this past month,
Just in general?
sure. So we've had some expenses, quite a bit, when you consider water and sewer on the,
I guess what I'm asking is, would we expect the revenue to catch up with the expenses? Because
I'm not gonna see it, because what we're seeing on the trend, on 32 weeks into the year, I'm not seeing that number's gonna actually support it. Now, does that mean that we're gonna, I think what'll actually happen is we'll be fine because the expenses aren't gonna be there. Wait till you hear the water and sewer report. So I will contradict myself. But I think we'll be fine overall. I just think it's, we're gonna have to address it. It's just like anything else. If it costs us $1, that's what we need to be charging as $1 to cover those costs.
All right, you do this? You said water sewer?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get to that. Let's go down the rest of it. So we've hired a corrections officer. They're being post-certified. That could begin at the end of this week. Prisoner vehicle replacement status. It is not a fun time to buy a car or a truck or a van in our case. We're looking at another one tomorrow. We're just gonna have to see. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You find one and it's gone in no time. And Joe, did you want to comment? You may want to talk to me later about that van that you sent me, pictures of earlier.
That didn't work, I got another line for tomorrow.
Good. Well, let's look at that.
That one will work.
So, liability insurance renewals, we met with the finance committee and, they had a recommendation to, go forward with current liability insurance. We have 2 claims against process. I met today actually with the agent and, we began to, hopefully I'll have numbers to you, by the 18th of March, next month. We'll see where those numbers are. Also, we met with, the finance committee with regards to updating this room, making improvements to the room, and closing, as you know, closing those restrooms, making access for to change the bar up front where the council sit, and put in audio visual. And I'd sent the committee numbers today. We nailed that down. I think when we met week before last, the number was to do all the improvements in this room and do the exterior was around $50,000. We're probably around $44,000 right now. Did the committee want to comment on that at all?
Good job.
So we'll bring those numbers for y'all's consideration next week. We'll put that on that. Also, Denise, she had brought up the idea of purchasing a snowplow. Well, here's the biggest problem we found with a snowplow. If you ordered it today, you wouldn't get it till September. Boy, isn't that a story we've all heard. But anyway, the committee looked at that, and we've got a cost of $5,200 in that. But there's the problem. It's the biggest, is finding the adequate piece of equipment, and you know, I mean, everybody's seen it. Doesn't matter what you purchase now. You can't find a light bulb; they'll be out at the store. So it's just a challenge, but that'll be for consideration. And then Mr. Holman sent out the municipal judge agreement. Joe, if you want to talk about that at all?
We've sent y'all a copy, and Judge Law is reviewing it. As soon as he signs it, then I'll bring it to the council. Hopefully we'll have it by next week so we can resolve that and put it behind us. Yeah, he's got it. I want him to sign it so before I had y'all approve it at a meeting, in case there are any changes.
I was trying to get ahead of something, sorry about the netting works.
Yeah, I've already been told it's Valentine's Day, and some people would rather be someplace other than here. But, all right, 2 things, real quick, water and sewer. We have hired that additional position for the assistant. They started about a week and a half ago, and that seems to be working out real well. Just real quick, I sent Garnet and Gene, put a note in your all's pocket about a gentleman that's looking for your consideration on credit. And then the other thing is, on water and sewer, so, you know, the plant's 12 years old. I sound like a broken record, and things wear out. So, I know y'all familiar with the sand filters, what have you. Well, anyway, we were having problems with, there's 6 sand filters, by the way. We were having problems with number 1 and number 2, so last week we kind of dwelled into the middle of that, and what we found was one of the interior parts, which I'll describe as about a 12-foot piece of PVC, and it's got all these different fixtures on it and everything. And that's actually where we put the relief valves in what's called reject, which means nothing to y'all. So we pulled that bad boy up out of the ground on an easy task. It comes out of the sand and what have you. And what we found is the condition of that pipe had a big old hole in it, about that big. That's a pretty good sized hole for a pipe, 2-inch pipe. Anyway, then went further down the pipe, we found another hole about as big as my finger. And so anyway, it's a specialty piece of equipment. I described it as PVC, and that's exactly what it's made out of, but it's made especially for that. Well, we were able to get that, those 2 filters back up and running, and I thought, you know what? We should look at the other 4 filters. So we pulled up all the rest of them, and they're all showing the same wear and tear. So, being good stewards of what we did purchase $3,046 worth of parts, and hopefully we'll get them in the next 5 to 6 weeks. And so I bring that up because that's the type thing, twofold. 1, 12 years old, we wouldn't know that part, but it's actually submerged the entire time. We wouldn't know that part was going bad. It's not, we were actually talking to the manufacturer, and they said, well, you know, that everything eventually wears out. But they couldn't give us what we call right to life and how long that should last. But we were smart enough to pull the rest of them up and see the conditions they were in. So I say that to you, 12 years old, things go bad. You know, the good news for y'all is we're gonna get those replaced. The bad news is, gosh, I wish we had a crystal ball and could see a little bit further in the future. So that's, remember earlier I said, well, hopefully we'll stay under our expenditures. We'll keep having incidents like this, we won't. But anyway, anybody got any questions on that? And Gene, if you and Garnet want to talk to me later about that, memo I gave you.
We already decided.
Good. Well, let me know. And
I sent an email back.
Sorry?
I sent an email back on what I was.
Okay.
Whatever.
Whatever
Talk
works
to you
best.
before we leave.
Good. Good. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have, unless there are any questions on that.
Anybody? I don't have any. All right, just give it, I'll learn about census myself, so I want to hear about it from you.
So, we have what we think a finalized number on the census, and we're concerned, specifically, we're actually concerned with the number of households that they recognize, which relates, as you can imagine, you have so many households, then that relates to population. And anyway, we're creating an environment that's isolating where there may have been some miscounts from. And I can tell you for sure probably how confident we are probably sometime later this week. We'd actually hope to have some of that information. So we're comparing that to a lot of different data points to argue that. One of them, and believe it or not, is the tax digest. Even though we don't have property taxes, we do have counts on the number of acres available, and the number of households available, and they kind of support the argument that I'm probably going to bring to y'all that will want to challenge that census data. So some of y'all know that's a big deal because a lot of times when like loss negotiations and SPLOST negotiations, we get a percentage of bill on based on our population, so that's a big deal. Plus, I actually have in my hand a contract for services because we're going to redistrict all the mapping. Well, I'm going to hold on to this a little bit longer. Joey, I sent a copy last week with Margaret Ann on this. So I want to hold on to this a little bit longer before we go ahead and enter an agreement to get the new census district mapping for the council done. Let me tell you quickly how that works is each seat where you live right now is protected when they create a new map. It's all done by population, which goes back to the census data. You can see how important that is. Anyway, let's see where that goes. I mentioned to the mayor the other day the count, and he, like me, right away recognized something's got to be wrong in some of their counts.
I
So,
can see that.
let's see where it goes. The problem will be is in the past, 10 years ago, I knew a lot of communities that challenged the census, and some of them were successful in convincing the census data that the numbers were wrong. And it didn't matter because it took 2 years to get them to acknowledge it. So,
And it's already been 2 years.
well, yeah, 2 years after they challenged the real data. So, you know, we will see. That's all I can tell you right now.
Okay, everybody familiar with the next one? So, SDS at Asper, us to allow them to set up procedure and like we're going to dump the sewer in our sewer system. Now, we've had a meeting about this. Do we need another one? Do we need another meeting about this? So we want to decide they're going to know what to do about this.
We're gonna wait next week, vote?
But it's not a voting session, is it?
No.
Well, that's not next Monday.
Huh?
We have to go next Monday night. It's not a
Right.
voting session.
Yeah.
Craig, I saw you come in. Did I see you come in? No, another Craig. Craig,
Sorry.
Craig Smith. I thought I saw him come in.
They left.
Oh,
I did see him, but
so you can speak. Okay, next on the list is Crick Broom has a request for de-annexation from the city. He is here tonight. We'd like to hear from you, Crick, what you got to say.
Basically, 15 years ago, my wife and I were building our first and only house. I'll never do that again. We purchased a lot as they were developing the Misty River subdivision. We purchased a lot to gain access to an acre in my in-laws' back pasture where we wanted to build our house. And we had a contingency that if we didn't build on that property, we would have to sell a lot back to the Misty River developer. And after financial considerations, 15 years ago, we were unable to get the driveway to the property. So we sold the lot back to the developer. So now I'm stuck with an acre, 1.1 acres of pasture land that was annexed into the city so we could gain city utilities that we can't access. So at this time, over the last 15 years, the taxes were very little and it was under $100, but now that property's, that 1 acre, we're paying $400 a year on taxes on it.
I thought you said you sold it back to the developers.
We sold the lot that we would access the acre
Oh,
back.
okay.
But the acre is just an acre of pasture land that's in Hall County.
I misunderstood.
That's it. So we're just looking to de-annex that unaccessible 1 acre. It's still just a pasture. And we just want to, we had to renew our 10-year agricultural conservation by April, and I've already made my appointment to do that, and we're going to combine that acre back with the 26 acres it came off of. I'm just looking to have it de-annexed so I don't have to pay the extra city taxes for no reason.
Yeah, I don't see the taxes.
County tax.
County tax.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're confusing me. It's not hard to do. I mean, I'm an old man. It's not hard to do.
I can be confused.
Anybody got any questions for him, or?
Yeah, you gonna come out cheaper with Hall County?
Yes, sir, because with the agricultural covenants, it's much cheaper. It's considered conservation land.
Anybody else? We'll consider this week and we'll decide what to do back next week, okay?
Thank you very much.
Back and bring it to us.
Yes, sir.
All right, Tim, are you here? I don't see Tim here. He's proposing it in a bound driveway. I'm not familiar with that. That's a new one. I didn't-
So, I copied everybody on the council, so Mr. Williams' request was permission to enclose a covered front porch on his adjoining property. This is his house, the first one on Main. The second one was the one that was under code enforcement. And for the issuance of we've actually issued a building permit now, so you can make improvements to that building. What he did ask though is to enclose where the covered porch currently is on city right of way. And Joey and I talked about this a little bit anyway, so what his statement is: remodel plans for building to revive distressed property to a modern updated 3.2 bedroom home, complement adjacent to the property at 6047 Main Street. So we actually have all the information on that property because we paid for all the survey information. If you remember, he claimed that the city's survey information was wrong. Come to find out it wasn't. Anyway, the city deeded an additional 9 feet to him out of the kindness of the heart. So I copied y'all on the area that we're talking about that extends into the right of way. And, you know, that's a choice of the council, whether or not they want to give this consideration or not. So we met with Mr. Williams and his wife, I think a week ago Monday, maybe mistaken, maybe a little bit further back than that. But anyway, January 31st was the date. Long story short, we met with him because he had so many code violations. We were finally getting to a resolution on that where we could issue a building permit. And when I explained that that would have, you know, he'd have to ask the council, he was going to go forward and issue, we were going to issue that building permit. He was going to pay for that as well. He, at that time, let us know that unless the council granted this, he was going to sell the property and he wouldn't make any improvements to it. Well, that was our concern on why the property wasn't being corrected to begin with. So this is one of those darn if you do and darn if you don't. I hate to see the city be put in a position where they have to take a positive position for Mr. Williams, y'all may choose to do that, but not the threat that he's gonna sell the property and not make improvements to it. So it's a concern of mine. This has been a concern of mine for better than a year. You know, this is how much problems we've had with correcting those properties. So, you know, certainly up to the council, you have copies of what, you know, the good news is we've got survey information, so we don't need to waste any more of our city dollars for it. The question is, do you want to allow that to happen?
Mayor, what I had added was that last year, he saw road abandonment initially under his, survey. It was just like Dennis is saying, for this road abandonment for an encroachment in the same area, not the same area, but in the same area. And then when we got the correct information, we went forward with a road abandonment that addressed the correct survey information. Again, it did not specifically address this encroachment, but there were public hearings about the road abandonment. So when this came up, those public hearings are sufficient to encompass this request if you wanted to proceed to abandon only the area that's being encroached. We would take the sketch or survey that Dennis has
Actually,
provided.
that's a different address in there.
It is.
It is.
It's not really the same
It's
property.
not.
It's also not the same road that's encroached on.
It's, but when we ran the ads before, that's the reason to say that. And that was in, so that's the council's options. You certainly are entitled to say we want to go through the complete procedure of a road abandonment for these specific encroachments, if you choose to do that.
Any more questions?
When did it, I mean, how long has it been on the city's right of way?
Probably forever, whenever it was built, you know. I mean, that's, our biggest concern is we've had so many issues in trying to get that property back up to code. Only to, I mean, we've worked with bent over backwards, sometimes to the criticism of others, only to have this turn around and say, well now, oh, I'll make the improvements, but I've got to get this approval by the council. And, you know, I don't want to see y'all's back be put against the wall on that. You may see it differently. That certainly is your option. It's like Joey said, you can address it, start it all over, or recognize what's been done up till now.
In case you're not being still involved to work with them.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's, other than the fact you may hold us hostage, which I'm not really a fan of, it seems like all these other zoning issues that property's being used for things that they should, they're not, you know, zoned for one thing, that it's a residential, where it's zone business or whatever, so, I mean, it seems like there's issues like this all over the city we need to just correct.
It's not the only one that's sitting in the right of way, you're right.
You're right about that.
Anyway, that's just my thought.
I think we've given him enough.
I second that. We'll place the item for your consideration on the council's agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, now the planning commission got some recommendations here.
So item A, you've already resolved, that was just a duplicate, shame on Dennis, who is that guy? Item B is candidates for the planning commission. The planning committee will hear, talk about those tomorrow afternoon after 5. And item C is a new item, which doesn't seem new because we've talked about it a couple of times now. It's proposed annexation and rezoning by Cook Communities at 6492 7th Street. Property owned by Mr. Lula, 30.27 acres, requesting from its current district ag to a PRD planned residential unit and proposed 90 lots. That'll be heard first by the Planning Commission on March 1st. Once a recommendation is determined by the Planning Commission, that will be forwarded to the council. Joey, I believe you already started the advertising.
You got an application in?
Yeah, we have a complete application.
Ads have run, and it'll be before y'all at your March 21st.
And we have posted the property.
Posted the property, notices went out certified mail, so folks start receiving those notices, may contact you.
Look forward to that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Parks and Cultural Committee. we got some railroad days coming up, on this. You want to tell about the railroad days?
Sure.
You know what I do, but this, the word cycle is 6th and 7th of May. Gonna have movies in the park on Friday night. As long as 2 other movies every year, but Friday night, the committee's made some recommendations for depot rental business, and we're working on anything for that right now. Okay, and, we got over the depot rental fees to be reduced this year. The committee recommended that, we're gonna vote on that next week. This one I haven't seen, I don't know how many reports now. Roll ordinance for urban camping and homes issue, I haven't seen it yet, I should.
So I believe that Joey's following what actions the city of Gainesville had taken in theirs. And have you done a rewrite?
I'm working on it. I always want to make sure before I draft something like that, I don't have any comment from council or staff. But I'll send you the draft, and if you'll direct, we'll go forward with the ads. I just want to make sure I'm doing what y'all want me to do with that. The best example is that Gainesville urban camping ordinance. It's the closest as well. I'll get that to y'all this week.
Who gets your bid here?
And I spoke with their city manager, I guess a week ago, 2 weeks ago, this past Friday. Anyway, they are very comfortable. They adopted that, I believe, that ordinance, I want to say in 2014.
Right.
But they put more emphasis on it since then. And they found it worked very well for them. And that's part of the challenge that we have is, one community, if you don't have an ordinance that mirrors the next community, well, then you might find a void that some may take advantage of. So as soon as we get that rewrite, we can give that consideration. And like Joey said, you'll have to send that to public hearing, right?
Right. Yes, sir. To public hearings.
Okay, Meals on Wheels, volunteers.
Yeah, so this is, Meals on Wheels is a great volunteer organization that helps especially the senior citizens and those in need. So in Lula, for years, they delivered in our area. So for whatever reason, I'm not sure, fell a little bit to the wayside. And so they're kind of bringing that back up to speed, and they've asked, actually, for volunteers in the area that would ride with them for the 4 Tuesdays in the month of March as a volunteer, just representing the city. So this is really open to the mayor and council, I think is where they would like to go. Anyway, they're a great volunteer group. They actually take out the meals usually twice a week, I believe. So I've already volunteered. I got the first Monday in March. Teresa's volunteered. That's the second Monday in March. Who wants to take the third and the fourth? So it's about a 2-hour trip.
Let's serve supper, and I'll be able to make it.
Yeah.
Lunchtime, I can't hardly make it.
Yeah, they do. It'll be around noon to 3 o'clock at the latest. So look at your schedule and see what that works out for.
There's Mondays on, right?
Sir?
Just Mondays?
Tuesdays.
Tuesday, you said Mondays.
Oh, I apologize. So I've taken the first Tuesday and the first and second Tuesday is open as well, or taken as well. Anyway, it's a great opportunity. And they actually are calling it, which I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to have to wear a tie that day, because they're calling it, let's see, where is it on here? Meals on Wheels, ties and rides. So I'm not sure about that. I hadn't worn a tie in a while, but I can certainly, Garnet and I can wear ties every day.
Maybe it just ties to Lula.
Yeah. Well, they're doing this all over, so it's Gainesville, all over Hall County.
So, question, so is this just for Lula city limit only?
No, it's all over the county. So they do this, yeah, so they're not just doing the promotion here, they're doing it with all the other cities as well. So, speaks very well of the area. That's all I had on that, Mr. Mayor.
You guys got a question on Meals on Wheels? All right, code enforcement, public secretary's comment on this now. Did you write it down, or do y'all remember it?
So in the code enforcement, when the Public Safety Committee met, they gave consideration to a couple of items. One was As you know, we're requesting, an item that's not budget, at this time, whether or not we want to take that item under consideration and under the current budget and make an adjustment. As you remember, the biggest problem with body cam is not so much the camera itself, it's the storage, as it turns out. Very expensive, a little venture. So was, I believe the committee at this time recommended not to approve the body cam, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a report on the actions. Currently, we have 20 cases that are current with the, with our plan and code enforcement. Let's see. So we closed, let's see, we've got 3 new open cases from last week, and we closed 7. So activity is pretty strong right now. Any questions y'all might have on that? Because Doug's in the room.
Okay, under the code enforcement rules, is the city liable for any actions that has not been done over the years in the public, on the public safety, on the citizens, on walkways? Are they allowable under the code?
Generally, no.
It'd be for a judge to decide too.
Can I show you some pictures? Mr. Attorney?
Defer to the presiding officer.
Okay. This right here, it's been dressed for a while. It's a hole in the ground. Now, until we can figure out the districts that y'all run to dress the right person. There's a hole. Okay. This one's downtown, where everybody walks from the depot. During our festivals and all, sidewalks. Yes, that's dangerous. I wouldn't put that out
It's
today.
somebody's yard.
No, that's the road right away. That's beyond this side of the mill, left-hand side.
We'll look at it and see.
Okay.
Got the address on there.
I will put the address there when you request the addresses.
Yes.
Maiden Lane, over on the right, past the church. I went to talk to that gentleman today. Now this is the city, and this is the right person first. Now see, these are the sidewalks coming from the depot. You know, over the years, nothing has, now that's on the city right away. That ain't on the public. Tried to make an appointment today. Law enforcement officer, wasn't in. That's underneath, that's underneath the Hudson House. Yeah. Hudson House, roundhouse beside the Pizza Hut.
No, it's like private property.
But well, is there,
That's private property, it's private property.
okay. Now, does the law apply to any city council? Does it apply to Susan Donley, or does it apply to y'all too?
We're gonna live on the road money, right?
Yes, sir. I hope so.
That's right there.
This is on Banks County over the years. One city council always asked me that he lives in Banks County. Laws does not apply to him. And that's the pictures of his bandit trailer in the back.
Private property,
I understand. That's why I asked, is the laws under the ordinance considered to the citizens, or does it apply to the city?
law applies to everybody.
Okay. That's
We're
what
not exempt from that.
I would like to bring these pictures to Doug in this meeting.
You know, we're going to right now.
Now, how many months do we have to wait before we have something done?
That's another code enforcement issue.
I understand.
I have a question about that one myself. Is
Yeah.
that one on Nathan Lane? I mean,
It's the
Adams
one,
Street, Nathan Lane?
yes, sir. It is dangerous to the general public on the conditions of anyone that would step on a nail. Oh yeah, here's the picture of the crack in that pipe that's so deep that was discussed on Main Lane. Now that is a bad thing right there. You know, any kid, anybody, or y'all could go check the meter and y'all could call it.
What's it, driveway pipe?
Yes, that's, well, it's the creek that runs under the road, under the land and everything, and that is on private, citizens, city
Storm
property.
runoff pipe, is that what it
Yes.
is?
That property is not on the city right of way.
Okay, I need you to go out there with Doug and the mayor, since he might take this office.
I will be glad to work with the council on that. We have looked at
Because over the
this.
years, let me address my boss, as my mayor. Mr. Mayor, over the years, beyond the city meter, we are responsible from the meter to our houses.
Whatever the right, okay.
Y'all-
Whatever the right of way is.
Yeah, from the meter back to the road, y'all are responsible. Okay,
The water line.
yes, to the water line. Now, what about
The
the
water main, they be sitting inside your property and maybe the right of way.
I understand, on 65 feet and all that. What I'm saying, somebody's got to assume responsibilities. You know, these issues.
And a lot of
When
these,
it comes,
a lot of these property owner issues. A lot of the property owner issues. Am I wrong?
I don't think this is a
I
problem.
said a lot of them are.
Yeah,
I don't know about that person, I don't know how far it is off, in the right of way. We
Okay.
can argue about this right now, we'll let,
I
the
understand.
code enforcement look at that.
that's the reason I'm bringing it forward, yes, sir.
The code enforcement look at it, make a complaint to him, that's what he's here for.
You know, when you call him and he's busy or whatever, I would like to bring it up here where I get something done. And what about public nuisance?
Now, my question about that, show that, I have one question about that particularly.
The shingles and all.
It's a demolition permit, how long is it good for?
How long is it?
So I'll have to pull the permit because we give them time on the permit.
Is it 9 months or six
On
months?
that particular one, it should be complete within 6 months.
6 months, I wasn't sure what the time it was, that was my question too.
Right.
Because it hasn't been 6 months since I started. That's why I didn't know, that's why I was asking.
And I'll pull that and look
That's
at
still
it.
under permit, so it's still under construction, or demolition.
And like, throw this up now, we got a bad issue on that, where, you know, going out where the post office is, where everybody's chumping trash out their vehicles and stuff. It's making, you know, city look pretty rough right there. Now, I understood city Lula owns so much and then Hall County steps over, but there's a bunch of mess around there. You know, do I give that to y'all, then y'all give it to Doug?
Go get it done.
We'll give it to Doug.
Make a call complaint if you want to.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Okay?
Y'all said, the code enforcement doesn't need a body cam. With people being so hostile and so many issues being brought up, and to me, he's an officer. His life is just important, and when he goes out and does these things, I think it might be in his best interest if y'all do something.
Appreciate your comment. Taking into consideration. Okay. The Lula ladies are not meeting this month. They're going to meet next month. And, the Carl Major Memorial, I guess y'all all know some boots have been painted. If they take donations to finish the job, if y'all want to contribute to that. So far, $3,000 has been raised, and they're working on real goods. If I want to contribute, there's a brochure right here. I don't know if they want it back or not, there's one right here. The Lula Belton Historical Society meets our fourth Monday of the month, at 6 o'clock at the depot. And we have our training, or local act sales tax training on March 7th. I'm not sure who, I think, going.
So I believe Jean's going, I believe Denise is going. And, yeah.
I lost in that boy, I couldn't remember where it was. Okay, now I'm back down to system comments again. Anybody else got anything else to say? Councilman?
Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Tim, you weren't here when we did your item number. You want to speak to it now?
Yes, I didn't, honestly, I didn't realize there was a council meeting until I pulled up to my house 5 minutes ago, and and saw, and then when I came in, realized we were on the agenda. I apologize for that, but I know that they had propositioned it or presented it as abandonment of the right-of-way on the house right beside us. We do desire to enclose the front porch. With the abandonment of the property of my personal home that we needed, that corner slot, when they resurveyed my property, it actually put my property line 3 feet back. I originally was not over the property line. I was within the boundaries until they resurveyed it. And so I do want y'all to consider that. And also the building was built in 1950. That porch, that awning, has been there for over 70 years. So in my opinion, there should be some type of grandfather law that would allow that. I mean, it's going to be there, it's going to remain there, whether it's enclosed or not, it's still in the same position as it was 70 years ago. So, and I know I spoke with Tangi, and she said, y'all, of course, we would not be voting on it tonight, you would be voting on it next week, but if you would just consider that, because we, just as a city is, we have the same desire to get that place remodeled, rehabbed, and looking, at least complement our house that we live in right beside it. And I definitely desire that square footage of that front porch as a living area. So, all right, thank you.
Tony got something.
Yeah, I do. My name's Tony Cornett. I live at 5730 Mickens Way. We just had a little experience here. I'm sure you probably saw what was going on in the back of the room. I think someone that directed one of the citizens to address the codes enforcement officer, and they did so right here in this meeting, and it was very disruptive to those that were in the back. We couldn't hear the conversations that were taking place. So my citizen's comment today is really just that, you know, if we can conduct a meeting in an appropriate manner and follow the rules, I would greatly appreciate it. So if you see something going on in the room, I would ask that you please address that. I asked them to take it out, and it seems I was accosted in some way. We'll get into that later, if need be. I hope it doesn't come to that. But I would appreciate it if we could conduct these meetings in an appropriate manner.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Council comments. You want to say anything? Oh, sorry, I didn't say.
May I address the council, please?
You can.
Okay. Well, my name is Keith Jones, and I live at the end of 10th Street. And I should have addressed this a long time ago and got it handled, but I have not. It's been a burr in my saddle, and I just like to say I'm a God-fearing man, a peaceful man, but this has been a burr under my saddle. And I'm going to address some issues. Number one, on my road being paved. And the problem that I should have already addressed the council, addressed you, Matt, as my superintendent. But I'm going to explain the situation, and what I would like to request is an answer in writing as to why our road with the fence paved. Now, with that being said, there's a reason for that. I talked to the former mayor 3 different occasions. I feel like I didn't get any response from him, and I told him one day at the restaurant right over here, I'm straight honest. I'm straight, God-fearing, straight honest man. He said, well, you come sit with us if you ain't going to talk behind my back. And I said, Jim, I'm not talking behind your back. I'm not voting for you. You didn't get my road paved. You're not listening. That's what I told him. Okay? Y'all stop the road 3 houses up from our house. I called your father-in-law on that, which developed the road, and I had a conversation with him before I talked to Jim, the mayor. And he said, absolutely, Keith, it needs to be paid. I believe you can ask him. If I'm wrong, he will work it out. I called Jim. I talked to Jim on 3 different occasions, and I got nowhere. Okay? So, I talked to Bobby again. Bobby also said, well, I told Bobby, I said, well, your son-in-law is my counsel. He said, he'll have to excuse himself. No, you're not going to excuse yourself. You're my councilman over here in my district, or you were. Okay? So, I just wanted it right when y'all stopped and didn't finish the road. It's okay either way, because then I talked to you, Dennis, about it in your office. I'm straight up, okay? You said you took in $9 million worth of grant money and all this other stuff. That's fine. How come we can't get our roads paved?
All right, Keith, let me ask you, what's
Well,
your?
can I please
Oh,
finish?
sorry, I'm not doing that.
If I may?
I thought you were.
Okay, so, with that being said, I just want something in writing as to why y'all stopped, didn't come down the hill. Then I was told at one occasion it was a private road. Your father-in-law, Bobby, again, which he developed it, and I have. You got an awesome family, I thank the world of you guys. He'll tell you the same thing. He said he deeded the road to the city, it was not a private road. I live on Toombs Street. My address is Toombs Street. It's not a private road. If it didn't get deeded to the city, then Mr. Miller is confused about it because he told me himself that he deeded the property to the city. And so, I want something in writing, that's fine. If we don't have the money, that's fine. We need to find a way to start raising money to get our roads paved. If there was a miscommunication on where it's a private road, or if it's not a private road, then I need to get that issue resolved if I may. I think that's fair. I want to look back why you stopped. It's okay. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. But I'm going to get the issue resolved. One way or the other. And if we don't have the money in the city to pave our roads, then I'm going to get on the road committee and we're going to start raising money to get some things done. Because me and my wife are going to get involved and we're going to get some things done. Simple. We get things done. We've been working with our churches and in the community for years. People that know us know we get things done. And we're going to. In a God-fearing, that's who I am, way. I just want an answer. Number two, can I continue? Can I have one more? Do I need to sit down? Or is this good? Are you guys okay? I have no beef with nobody in the city. I've been here for years. But I'm going to tell you something. I work in this shop out here. We got some safety issues that I'm going to address. In the days ahead. There's some things that we're doing. We're crawling in holes that are 12 and 13 feet deep without any cages, anything whatsoever in the middle of the night. Nobody's listening. When we go out there here to these gates, nobody's listening. I've worked here for 5 years. I spoke to you the other day. Job or no job, I love my job here. I respect every one of you. I live in this city, and have for 20 years, and I love this town. But we're going to get some issues addressed out in these fences right here with some safety issues, one way or the other. And we'll be working on that in the future. I'm just giving you a heads up where we're at. Y'all got any problems about it, you can talk to me personally. Thank the world to every one of you. I don't have any issues. But I'm going to get my road issue resolved one way or the other. And if we don't have any money, according to our city manager, we got some extra money in the bank. We need to cut our right-of-ways back. We need to start getting the meters updated. I read them, I know. We've got holes all over town that people are stepping in. I see them every day. We got issues, folks. Job or no job, I don't care. I told Dennis when I took this, I'm straight. Straight up. I told you this when I took this job. I didn't take it for the money. I need the money. My folks have done well, and I've done well in the past. Not a filthy rich man, but I'm not a poor boy either. When my wife came down with cancer, I appreciate the insurance that you guys offer. Okay? Very much. Very, very much. I appreciate the benefits and the insurance. We had a meeting in here one day, and Dennis knows this too. This is one of the birds up my saddle. And I'm going to air it out tonight. I ain't nobody's stock boy. And I told you, that's why we got a $2 an hour raise. The former mayor says, oh, that's the stock boys. No, that was during COVID. I'm not a stock boy, folks. I'm an honest, hard-working man. We have got a crew out here that loves this city, works every day, and works very hard. But we're going to get some things handled. Either if I work here or if I don't work here. In the days ahead. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for stepping up.
Anybody have any citizen comments? Council comments?
Just appreciate everybody being here and being honest with us. Happy Valentine's Day.
Anybody?
Happy Valentine's Day.
Y'all too. Let's all work together and get issues worked out, and everybody step up, do their jobs, the citizens work with the council and the mayor, the new mayor, and let's get it going. We can do it together. Amen.
That's what we're trying to do.
Well, please listen to our comments, our safeties, let's work together.
Well, I think they are listening.
I know, and can't you honestly say, you got more attention here than you did in the last previous two mayors?
Okay, guys, we're gonna adjourn the meeting and go into executive session. Last short leave, we'll take a 10-minute break, we'll decide in the executive session, we'll call y'all back in. Thanks.
I'll make a motion to go over executive session.
Second,
Made a man, and second, Vice Smith, for executive session. All better?
Aye.
All opposed? I will executive session, we'll take about 10 minutes. Y'all.
you get up.
We just leave the room. We're going into executive meeting.
Oh, well, we're going home, buddy.
Yeah, that's what it said.
You take him home, Ruby. Hey.
Okay. No, I thought.